Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MMA Island podcast. I'm Jack Kennedy,
And I'm Mace Martinez.
and this is your podcast for the latest in MMA. I'm Jack Kennedy, and they hit a lot harder, in my opinion, too.
Mace Martinez.
He put Aldo stiff in 13 seconds before Bruce Buffer could even plant his ass in his seat.
I'm Marcos Diaz.
You can't keep getting opportunities if you get hurt.
And this is the MMA Island podcast.
So, we have a great podcast lined up for you today. One of the most stacked fight nights pretty much ever is coming up. And I was a little bit blinded by this because of the obviously disappointing news that Chimaev versus Edwards would not be headlining the fight night. But when you look at the card, it's still unbelievably stacked. So we will be predicting 4 whole fights for you today from that card, as well as 2 big pieces of news going around in MMA today. So with that, let's get started with the predictions. And the first fight we're going to be talking about, we're going to lead up to the main event, which is Stephen Thompson. The first fight we will be going to be talking about today is the wild and crazy Michel Pereira versus Chaos Williams. What are you thinking about this one, Mace?
I think it's going to be an exciting fight. Definitely entertaining. Michel he had a stellar debut, man, against Danny Roberts last May. And then he dropped those 2 fights against Tristan Conley and Diego Sanchez. In my opinion, Diego kind of took the easy way out on that one after taking the illegal knee. But Michel the flips and the acrobatic stuff is cool. I really enjoy watching that.
Yeah.
He's entertaining. If nothing else, he's entertaining. Definitely a fan favorite because of that. But that being said, that's not going to win him any fights. This guy he's going up against, Chaos Williams, is a monster.
Yes.
8-fight win streak. He's 2-0 in the UFC, and those have both been massive KOs in a span of 57 seconds.
Right.
Alex Morano was the first one, and then Abdul Razak Al Hassan was the second one, who is a knockout artist on his own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of his own. So I know we discussed that fight before it happened, and we knew for sure somebody was getting knocked out, and that was just crazy. I think Pereira is tough. I think that the fight will last longer than Williams' first 2 fights combined for sure. I actually think this fight goes to decision. I just think they're both so tough, but I think Williams is the more well-rounded fighter. I think he's the more serious fighter, and I think he gets it done by decision. I think Michel is just a little too tough. I don't think he gets to finish.
Yeah, that's a good prediction. So I'm going Williams as well. I was so much more impressed though from Pereira in his last fight. He improved so much, in my opinion, from what he was before. Before he was completely about his unique style. He's still the craziest fighter in the UFC, doing flips and everything. But in his last fight, he kind of toned it down a little bit. He kind of took some power off of his shots and didn't gas out immediately. And he still completely dominated the fight and everything. Ended up with a late submission. It was amazing to see, and I was really glad to see that development in his career as well, because I don't want to see a guy like that get cut from the UFC, because he is so fun to watch. You just whenever he fights, whenever you see his name, you have to watch, because you know he's going to be doing the most insane stuff you will see on TV. It's like WWE stuff, but it's in the octagon. So it's crazy, and he's so fun to watch. But the guy he's facing has had 2 fights in the UFC. Any fighter in the UFC nowadays is an elite fighter. Or I mean, like, it has to be good enough to be in the UFC. There's a certain level you have to be in the UFC. So, it's the best organization. So they're at least capable fighters, and he has not fought over a minute in the UFC. 57 seconds in combined 2 fights, unreal. And the dude he last fought is a monster. He was knocking guys out left and right. I gave Chaos Williams no shot in that fight, and he proved me completely wrong. So, I don't know. Michel Pereira, he's a very good fighter and tricky and all over the place. If he's able to mesmerize Chaos Williams and keep him guessing on where he's going to be, really limit his movement, then he could very well win this fight. But I just haven't seen anyone so far be able to take a shot, one punch from Chaos Williams. And Pereira does get hit. That's part of his style.
Right.
He takes punches to give punches. I haven't seen anyone able to take a punch from Chaos Williams. So I'm saying Chaos Williams. I do 100%, no doubt this fight is going longer than any fight Williams has faced before, which is a big advantage for Michel Pereira. But second round TKO for me, Chaos Williams. I just think Pereira, he might edge out the first round, but if he gets hit one time clean, I think he goes down. I think most people go down to that division from a shot from Chaos Williams. And again, this fight is so exciting for anyone that doesn't really know these guys or anything. The reason we have this on here is because this is going to be such a good fight. The matchup is one of the best out there. And this is, in my opinion, I see Chaos Williams just landing that one shot, connecting one time cleanly, and putting him down. So Chaos Williams, TKO, KO, second round is my prediction.
Nice.
All right, so next up, Marlon Moraes is returning to face Rob Font in a pivotal 135-pound division fight. What are you thinking on this one?
You said it, a pivotal fight, especially for Moraes. Obviously, he's high ranking in the bantamweight division, number 3, and he's coming off the TKO loss to Corey Sandhagen, who is a stud in that division as well. I think we both agree on that. We both like that kid. Moraes has been some top guys. I mean, Aljamain Sterling, John Dodson, Jose Aldo. He's beat Jose. So he's got some big wins in that and under his belt. As far as Font goes, he's trying to crack the top 10, number 11 currently, and he's getting this opportunity after beating Sergio Pettis and Ricky Simon. Both of those are tough guys.
Yeah.
A win over Moraes, I think, solidifies him as a legit contender for sure, and possibly gets him into the top 5. A big jump in the rankings if he gets the job done. With that being said, my prediction is that Moraes is just a little bit cleaner, a little bit more technical, I would say, I guess, and I think he gets it done. I think it's by decision. A spoiler, I think all these fights are by decision. I'll let that go right now. I won't tell you who I think is going to win right away, but I think they're all by decision.
Yeah. All right. Well, I completely agree with you with this fight. Rob Font is as tough as they come. But when you're talking about Marlon Moraes, his stand-up is one of the best at 135. He just got overwhelmed by Corey Sandhagen, which, like, who hasn't at this point in his career? Marlon Moraes, he beat Aljamain Sterling with that crazy – that shot blew me away whenever he landed that. One of the cleanest knockouts. Actually almost beat Henry Cejudo, was having success early. Obviously, Cejudo rallied. And then he's been kind of off and on since then, but he's always in a fight. He's never out of a fight. And I think he will I think he's just too high of a level over Rob Font in this fight. Rob Font's a very tough fighter, very, I would say, skilled fighter in pretty much all assets. I think he would beat a lot of the 10 or below fighters in that weight class. And obviously, like you said, he's had success before that. But when you're talking about a guy who has such a skilled set, has such a good skill set in stand up, and he also has submission. He also has a submission game as well. I just take Marlon Moraes in this one by a pretty comfortable decision, I'm thinking. But at the end of it, I think this is one of those fights where it's one guy is pretty much dominating, but you have to give the other guy a round of applause because he's still going to be out there and throwing stuff, and that's Rob Font for me. So I'm taking Marlon Moraes by a decision as well.
Yeah, I like that.
All right. And the co-main event, another massive fight. Jose Aldo versus the unreal Marlon Vera, who just beat Sean O'Malley. Whatever, even though that was a crazy fight, he did technically beat him. Now he gets a huge step up in competition against one of the greatest UFC fighters to step into the octagon. What are you thinking about this incredible co-main event?
Yeah, I think it's great. Obviously, Aldo's had some hiccups the last couple of times out. I think he's lost 3 in a row, if I'm not mistaken. He's still in the top 10, number 7 in the division. Obviously, Peter Yan worked him in that fight that probably went on a little longer than it should have.
Oh, that was
in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think Aldo's on the chopping block here, man. With the UFC planning, these major roster cuts, I think that he's probably a name that's been discussed. I could be wrong, but I feel like he's on the chopping block. As far as Marlon goes, he's complete opposite. 1/6 of his last 7. Yeah. Like you said, beat Sean O'Malley. In my opinion, that's probably a win he doesn't get if O'Malley's not injured. I think that O'Malley takes care of business there.
Yep.
But either way, he got the job done, and now he has the opportunity, like you said, to dive into the top 10 with the victory over Aldo. So he rounds out the top 15 right now. Saying all that, I think my prediction is Aldo gets the job done. I think he realizes that he's on the chopping block. I think he fights with a sense of urgency, just knowing he needs to get the job done. So I have him taking out Marlon, but by decision as well. He gets the win by decision because Marlon is tough. I don't think he's going to finish.
Yes. Yeah.
And Aldo seems like, I don't know, he's just not the same. He hasn't been the same since he fought McGregor. We've said that many times. We've said that to each other many times, and it's just the truth. I think he gets the job done by decision. I don't see him finishing him, but he gets the victory.
Yeah, I'll start with that. Great pick. I'll start with that. He hasn't been the same since McGregor. We've seen that with Renan Barao whenever he fought TJ Dillashaw. He was never the same. There's certain fighters whenever you're at the top of the game for so long and then you lose, and it's just kind of you're past your peak, and also in the way you lose as well. It's a big impact, and he's one of those fighters. I will give him a lot of credit though. He was never the old Jose Aldo. However, he did still fight pretty well. He beat Frankie Edgar to win the belt again. Then he fought Max Holloway, and Max Holloway is probably going to go down as the greatest featherweight of all time.
Right.
But then he fought Jeremy Stevens and won, which was a brutal finish.
Nice body shot.
That was amazing to see. And then I believe he did beat Renato Moiciano as well in a fight, which was again another great finish. Which was so all of his recent wins that he has gotten, aside from the Frankie Edgar one, are by finishes. So I will give him credit there. He's still there throwing punches every single fight. I think a lot of it is due to age, and then also, the way he lost to McGregor. It's hard to rebound from that. So, but I do give him a lot of credit for still fighting. But like you said, as of recently, he has lost his last 3 fights. And the last one against Jan was a brutal loss. And it was very hard to watch. But that being said, so let me talk about Marlon Vera for a little bit. He obviously he's coming off a win over Sugar Sean O'Malley. Whether that win, will go down, I actually think they will cross paths again relatively soon.
Yeah.
Part of that is because I think he will lose this fight to Jose Aldo. I think a lot of people, again, like you said, he's fighting basically for his UFC stay right now. If he loses this, he's probably going to be one of the guys to go. But if he wins, which I think he will, then maybe he'll still get kicked out, but he'll still be at least, he'll make a better case for staying in. Right. Marlon Vera for me, and this is no disrespect to him at all, but he's a little bit overhyped for me. He won against Sugar Sean O'Malley, and that got his name out there. That fight was kind of, he hurt his leg, but a win's a win. But that being said, I don't think his name should be fighting Jose Aldo right now. I don't think he's at that level. So we'll see what happens. But I think a desperate Aldo, will be throwing bombs. And I think Marlon Vera, again, he's very tough. I think Jose Aldo will get the stop in the 3rd round just from pure overwhelming Marlon Vera. I think it will be nonstop pressure from Jose Aldo, leg kicks, just working the body, everything. And I just think Marlon Vera, I don't think will hit the canvas, but I think he just might be stopped just from pure taking on so many shots and damage. So I'm taking Jose Aldo by a 3rd round TKO. I think he's fighting for his life right now, and he's going to prove, I think, that he is not supposed to be facing a guy like Marlon Vera, and that he should be facing more, in his eyes, respectable opponents. So that's where I'm at with this fight.
Okay.
All right. Now, the main event of the evening. It's crazy to think this was even going to be a co-main event with the last fight. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is facing Jeff Neal in what poses to be an incredible welterweight matchup with huge stakes in the division as well. What are you thinking on this fight?
So I'm a big fan of Wonderboy, man. I love to watch him fight. And last time out, he took care of Vicente Luque by decision. That was over a year ago, so he's been out for a little bit. Yeah. Before that was on a skid. He lost to Till. He was knocked out by Pettis. Obviously, that was a big knockout, a bad knockout. I feel like Wonder Boy has kind of slipped under the radar a little bit. He's still number 5 in the division, but I just feel like his shadow doesn't loom as large as it did at earlier on in his career. Like when he had the title shots against Woodley, he was everywhere. You heard about him all the time, even after he took that loss the first go round. Obviously, the second go round, Woodley wasn't nothing to really watch, but I just feel like
was incredible though. Yeah,
right. I just feel like he's like I said, he's kind of slipped under the radar a little bit. As far as Neal, he's number 11 in the division, and I think if he gets the job done here, I think he cracks the top 5 unquestionably. He hasn't lost since January of 2017. That was to Kevin Holland, and of course that guy is a monster as well. 7 wins in a row. He only gone to decision one time, and that was unanimous against Bilal Muhammad. Other than that, it's 5 knockouts and a submission victory. So he's definitely in a groove coming in against Wonder Boy. And like I said, Wonder Boy's feeling somewhat disrespected. I know he's mentioned felt that the push of Chimaev is too much. Obviously, Chimaev was supposed to headline this card. So I think he feels like the push is too much. It's a little disrespectful. So I think he's fighting to prove a point too. I know he's not a gatekeeper is what he said the other day on ESPN. He don't want to be seen as a gatekeeper for these guys to make their name off of him. So I think like Aldo, he's going to come out fighting to prove a point, fighting to show that he still belongs ranked where he's at. And I think he fights smart. I think he stays away from Neal's power. I think he uses good distance, good range, and picks his shots. And I think he takes the fight by decision.
Yeah, Stephen Thompson is one of the most fun guys to watch in the UFC. One, because he's so fun, because he's such a nice guy outside. It's weird to see him like actually fighting in there with all the stuff. But then whenever he steps in there, his style is unreal. The point karate style and what he was able to do, it's so fun to watch. And when it works, it is beautiful to watch. Yeah. I was kind of disappointed because I like watching Stephen Thompson fight. I'm a fan. Whenever he was on a bit of a skid, especially after that Anthony Pettis loss, which that was a crazy knockout. Shout out to Anthony Pettis. That was insane. Yeah. I was worried he wasn't really going to be able to recover from that, not come back. But then he took some time off and he fought Vicente Luque. And Vicente Luque is a very good fighter. Right. And he just flat out, the side kick which dropped him, and then the right hand, it was crazy. That was vintage Stephen Thompson, and it was so fun to watch. I feel like that win kind of revamped something just in him, and it's like he realizes he can compete at the top level again after that fight. I think that was a big fight for himself as well, and he got that dominant decision win. I think he feels really good and ready to make another title run, which I think he can. Jeff Neal, again, great power, and that decision win over Bilal Muhammad. And yes, it was a decision, but Bilal Muhammad's a very tough fighter in himself, and he ended up winning that pretty dominantly. So it's a very fascinating matchup, because if Jeff Neal is able to put the pressure on and close the distance, he could win this fight. But Stephen Thompson, he makes it so difficult to be able to do that. Tyron Woodley figured it out in the second fight, but didn't really do anything with it, which made it a boring fight, as he did with a bunch of his fights. But Stephen Thompson, whenever he is able to trick fighters and change up his style, is pretty dominant. And like you said, which was a great take, he's flying under the radar right now with all the noises being made at the top of welterweight. Everybody's calling for a title shot. Covington, Usman's a champion, obviously. Burns is supposed to fight for the title. What's going on? Leon Edwards has been talking about a title shot. Now you have this guy Chimaev, who's come from nowhere, and he's shoving himself like right up there too. If he beats Edwards whenever they fight, he might be next for a title shot. Who knows? Yeah. Stephen Thompson is like, I am still one of the best guys here. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to fly under the radar. And then I think he will put on a showcase. I think he will win by a very dominant decision. And everybody will be like, oh, wow, we forgot about Stephen Thompson. And he will shoot his name right back up there and have a big 2021. So that is my prediction. Stephen Thompson by a decision, flying under the radar. And I think we will see a vintage Stephen Thompson performance on Saturday night.
I agree 100%. Like you said, the pressure from Neal would be something to worry about. I think we see a lot of side kicks from Stephen Thompson to keep the range and keep him backed up a little bit. And yeah, hopefully he can pull this out.
Absolutely. All right. On to our first piece of news for today. Anthony Johnson is going to face Ryan Bader, but not for Bellator, for the Submission Underground thing. It's going to actually be very interesting and more than just a Submission Underground, because that's a fun thing to see, anyways, just to see fighters compete for that. But do you think this could have implications for the Bellator title picture as well, with Ryan Bader sitting atop there, and Anthony Johnson? What are you thinking about this whole Submission Underground thing?
That's the hell of a question. I didn't even think about that. Possibly. I don't know. I think I know that Romero is saying that he's 90% sure that he's going to fight Rumble first in Bellator.
Yeah, yeah,
and I don't think Scott Coker would be against that.
yeah. That'd be a lot of money to be made there.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
I don't think that it would set well with a lot of people if Rumble was to come in and get a title shot against Bader right away. But would this be part of the buildup? For sure, 100%. This will be part of the buildup. Obviously, the past would be a buildup between them two.
Yep.
But getting back to Submission Underground, yeah, Bader. I know Johnson was supposed to face Werdum, so now Bader's stepping in for that. Like you said, obviously Rumble just joined Bellator and likely is going to shoot for that title shot against Bader at some time. The first time around, Rumble knocked him out in a minute and 26 seconds back in the UFC, and that was 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago. But if we're talking Submission Underground, Bader has 3 times the amount of submissions as Rumble, and then that's in mixed martial arts, and that's just 3 submissions to none. So submit as far as that goes, it's not really part of Rumble's game.
Yeah.
But who knows? I think Bader has the advantage. Obviously, he's been active recently. He's been active longer. I think Rumble has the strength advantage, even though Bader's a pretty big guy. I think Rumble have the strength advantage. So as long as his so as long as his cardio holds up, I think he'd be able to impose his will a little bit with the strength, and maybe get into some situations there where he's able to manipulate some arm bars or some choke attempts or something. But either way, it's good to see him back at it again. But I think Bader gets the best of him this time around. And yeah, like you asked earlier, will that play into their fight in Bellator? I think so. If Rumble's got the win in the UFC and Bader gets a submission win here, you know what I mean? And then I think definitely play into it.
Yeah, I don't know. I just can't imagine Rumble pulling out an arm bar and anything. But I completely agree with you. I think that obviously this fight is going to happen between Anthony Johnson and Ryan Bader. And I think this is, Anthony Johnson won by a knockout really quickly in the UFC. They'll be like, hey, they did the submission thing and Ryan Bader won by a submission. Look at that. They're even. So I think that's what they're trying to kind of set up a little bit. I like all these Submission Underground things. It's so fun to see. Obviously, Fabricio Verdum was supposed to be doing this, and it's just so fun to see all these guys. John Jones and Dan Henderson did one. It's just go in there and it's just having fun. It's just test out your jiu-jitsu. It's so fun to watch. As for this, though, I think Ryan Bader stepping in is actually a very smart move, not only for the marketing of the next fight, but just for himself as well, to see if he can get a win against Anthony Johnson.
Yes.
In anything, build up some of that confidence. As for Anthony Johnson, again, there's really nothing to lose here. It's just him going out there, just kind of having fun. So, again, great to see Anthony Johnson back. I think this fight will happen. I think that's kind of the thing. And I've already basically said it, but I think Ryan Bader has a clear advantage on the ground. So, if, my prediction for this fight would be, Ryan Bader wins by some sort of submission. I think it's just too slick. And, so that's what I'm thinking. All right, so the last thing we will be talking about on this podcast today is some pretty chaotic things happening at the women's strawweight division. So the clear fight to make that, so we thought, would be Rose Namajunas versus Zhang Weili for the title. However, Dana White said, whether it's true or not, which apparently it's not true now, who knows, that Rose Namajunas said she didn't want to fight for the title. Well, her husband, Pat Barry, said, that's not true. Of course we want to fight for the title. And in between that time period, I'm sorry, I'm going all over the place here, Carla Esparza was supposed to get the title shot against Zhang Weili. And then that fight got called back. And then, but there's still no news on Rose Namajunas if she's fighting yet. And then I saw this MMA Island on their Instagram posted, Joanna Jędrzejczyk is looking for a new fight as well. That might be for the title. It might do that insane, possibly fight of the year rematch. So 3 possible fights, 3 crazy scenarios going on. No one knows who's telling the truth, who's lying, what's going on, who is really going to fight. I don't even know if they know at this point. What do you make of this whole mess at women's strawweight?
Yeah, exactly. It's a mess. Obviously, the champion has options on what she wants to do. She's got 3 people right there that are trying to get at her. But so options are always good for the champ. Like you said, according to Pat Barry, they want the title shot. Yeah. Like you said, who wouldn't want it? Yeah. So I love Rose, man. I think she's extremely tough and she's so technical when she fights.
Yeah.
I don't see her not wanting a shot at Weili. Obviously, like you mentioned, Jędrzejczyk, she's got the wins over Joanna, one by KO and then by submission. And Joanna took Weili to a decision, and like we mentioned, a fight of the year candidate. Could be fight of the year. Could very well be fight of the year. I think Rose would take the fight. I don't understand I don't understand how that could be that much of a mix-up. Like I don't understand what could have been said to Dana for him to just say she doesn't want to fight for the title, other than Rose saying, I don't want to fight for the title. So I don't understand why there's so much confusion.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Rose takes the fight. I think she's highly confident that she wins that fight. I think she has what it takes to beat Weili. It's definitely a fight I want to see. I hope the UFC can make it happen. I'm not against Weili and Joanna going against.
Oh yeah, that'd be fireworks. Yep.
That would be amazing. So I'm not against that. As far as Esparza goes, I know she's won a few fights in a row, a couple of split decisions in those fights. So obviously those can go either way, but I think her wrestling would be her best shot. But overall, I don't think she has much for Weili. I think if we're talking competitors for Weili right now, it's got to be Rose and definitely Joanna. And they've all kind of intertwined already with each other. So I think Rose needs to get the shot. If she wants it, she needs to get it. And call me crazy, I think Rose takes care of her. I think Rose gets the belt.
All right.
She gets the shot. Yeah.
All right, that's interesting. See, I don't know about that one. I would take Weili in that one. I don't know. I like the power.
Hopefully we get to see it.
Oh my gosh, that's gonna be that could headline. Let's see. So a lot to unpack here. I like your assessment 100%. If I were to rank the fighters that I think would be the toughest test and should fight, Carla Esparza definitely last. Not disrespecting her at all. And she actually has pulled around her career a lot. I thought she was done after she was losing all the time. So massive respect to her for doing that. But when you talk about how Zhang Weili has been fighting, I give her no shot against her. So maybe you can impose a little bit of the wrestling, but even then, if you break one time, you take the risk of one shot landing, and that could put you down. So number 2, though, Joanna, obviously that would be the first time they fought. Joanna, in my opinion, is that division's greatest of all time, and what she did in her reign. And the fact that even now, out of her prime, she's still fighting and competing with the best and putting on a great show. It was really fun to see, and that was just such a good fight. They just kept throwing, and it was really fun to watch. It was almost unbelievable to see that they were just standing there. But
right.
And then number 1, Rose Namajunas. She's earned the shot. She's looked phenomenal in her last fight. The way she lost her belt was really disappointing. It was that slam, just kind of caught her off guard. My problem with Rose is the inactivity. She takes a little bit, and that's just the way she fights. She needs to take a long time, and a lot of it is mental, just to mentally prepare to get ready for the fight. And some fighters are like that. And she's like that. And whenever she's ready to go, it works for her 100%. She looks like one of the best female fighters in the world whenever she's on her game. Like you said, whenever she fought Joanna twice, both of those times she looked unbeatable at that division. So she has definitely earned her shot, especially in her last fight. I was so impressed to see her come back and get that victory, and it was very fun to watch as well. Weili versus that fight, it'll be such a fun matchup. And so, like you said, that's the fight that should be made. That's the fight that should line up. It's pretty clear that should be the number 1 contender championship fight. Whoever said anything with all of this, maybe I never know with Dana White sometimes, because he'll say stuff and then most of the time what he says is not true to either build up a fight or anything. But in this situation, it's not building up anything. It's just creating complete chaos. So I actually think he was told something, not by Rose Namajunas, because they seem startled by hearing the news as well. Why wouldn't she want to go get her belt back? It doesn't make any sense. I think maybe there was a third party or something that says something. I don't know. Who knows what's going on? It created chaos. How Carla Esparza got thrown into the mix, I don't know. But
Yeah.
it's just a chaotic situation. So maybe they do. Well, they already fought twice, didn't they? Did Carl? I'm blanking here. I don't think they did actually. Did Carla Esparza and Joanna Jędrzejczyk fight twice? I think maybe it was only one time.
Yeah, I think it was the one time, and she got beat down.
Yeah, because Esparza was the champ. She came off the Ultimate Fighter, won the belt. Right. Then Joanna came up and beat her, and then Carla Esparza took some time off and then could never really get back. So yeah, yes. Maybe they match them up again. I don't know. Maybe that's the fight Joanna's talking about.
I could see that. I could see that happening.
Yeah. And then Rose for the championship. But hopefully it pans out correctly. Who knows? But that's just kind of what I get we're making of it. Just another chaotic situation that shouldn't be chaotic at all in the UFC. It should be pretty straightforward. Right.
It's just crazy, and like to come out obviously publicly as Dana and to say that. What could he have been told, and by who? Yeah. That's the thing. Yeah. Like, that's just, she doesn't want the title shot. Well, who said that? I mean, damn, it's crazy. So if that is true, then he heard it from somebody who's a pretty reliable source.
Yes, that's true.
Yep. At least in his mind, to be able to come out and say that at a press conference.
Yeah.
Or in an interview. But I definitely don't see Rose or her team saying, we don't want that title shot. I don't know if he's trying to insinuate that maybe she's scared of Weili.
Yeah.
But I don't see that being the case at all. I think Rose can beat anybody in that division, even the champ.
Yeah. At least put up a competitive fight. I absolutely agree. Maybe the only other way I could think is if she doesn't want to fight in a certain time period that Dana White wants her to fight. And so she's like turning down a contract. She wants to fight for a later date. And then he's just saying flat out, she doesn't want to fight. That's the only other thing. But even then, I don't think he would just come out and flat out say, she doesn't want to fight for a title. So like what you said, someone had to have come to him and said, Rose Namajunas does not want to fight Zhang Weili for the title shot, which who even knows? So yeah, absolutely.
There's no way.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for this podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. Again, like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. You can listen all over the place. We are everywhere. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you can listen to podcasts, we are there. Leave a review where you can. Check us out on Instagram at MMA Island and on our website, MMAisland.net. Thank you guys again so much for listening, and great podcast, Mace.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.